Welcome to the Elements of Spirit readings for the week of December 3rd, 2017. This is the reading for the signs of water, for the element of water, Cancer, Scorpio, Pisces. I immediately grabbed the rose quartz. Do I do that every time? So, okay, cool. So what they're saying here is that water has been acutely anticipating Mercury retrograde. Water has been feeling changes regarding hope and possibility and how not to implode in emotional stagnation, and depression. Okay. But now that Merc has shifted, it's too much. Water needs to go from desire to understand to intention of prayer. Weird. Okay, so intention of prayer, peace, love, highest good for greatest number. So the idea here is that rose quartz is coming in and saying, okay, we've been sensing also Jupiter in Scorpio. That would be it. So the Jupiter in Scorpio has been, maybe a little less harrowing for us, for the water signs, than it has for all of the other children. Because it's our territory, because there's a natural affinity between, right, Cancer, Scorpio, and Pisces in a triangle, right? That's why the elements of the zodiac are known as the triplicities, 12 signs, 4 elements, ether being the circle which contains them all. So the vibe for this is that we've been existing basically in a trine, right? Like in a triangle in our signs with this Jupiter and Scorpio influence. Scorpio, expansive truth, coming out from all of the shadows. We've been naturally attuned to this vibe from the beginning because it's happening in water. My sense is that this upcoming, or this Mercury retrograde, which is now happening, is going to give other people the cognitive framework, or other elements, the cognitive framework through which to understand what we as water signs have been sensing and even knowing intuitively, what we've been receiving intuitively. English translation, everything that you've learned about who you are relative to power, sex, secrets, transactions, and, the sort of illumination of all of that material. However you've been processing that individually, it's almost like this read is saying we've been having more of an intuitive understanding without needing this kind of cognitive wake-up call. Cognitive wake-up call in the form of Mercury retrograde in Sagittarius is helping us to expand our heights, expand our visions of what's possible. But in order to expand our visions of what's possible, we have to integrate some of this shadow material, right? That has to do with Jupiter and Scorpio. Point being, we've been on this track. Now that Mercury has shifted direct, we've been on this track sort of intuitively processing Jupiter and Scorpio through our minds, through the Mercuric, medium. Now that Mercury has gone direct, it's like, it's too much mental energy. So what I'd love to say is like, oh, beautiful water children, just float, relax. We don't have to do anything, just go with the flow. But that's not the case. The shift is actually into prayer. The shift is actually into not worrying about whether your life is going to turn out all right or not. It's about overriding that personal insecurity and asserting collective security. Override personal insecurity, assert collective security, even if you don't believe it. The whole point of a prayer is that you can't do it. So you want it answered, you want it helped, you want it, opened, whatever it is. So I choose to focus my attention on the highest good for the greatest number. Every breath I take is a prayer for peace. This can be abstract. It doesn't have to be specific. You can visualize a big hug around the world. You can visualize any kind of global conflict you want and visualize it getting better. You can pray for those conflicts based on the tradition of your belief system of origin. You can use whatever practice you want. The important thing is to focus your attention on the highest good for the greatest number. When you feel yourself collapsing into the worst good for the fewest, me, when you feel that inertia or that overload, or specifically the way that the water sign is vibing it for us this week, is when you feel just that hyper overloaded thing where you're like, I'm thinking about the best outcome so much, like, I collapse. The idea is to reset the heights of your sights by focusing on the highest good for the greatest number, the best outcome for the largest group possible, the highest good for the greatest number. And remembering every breath I take is a prayer for peace. This connects us to something from my journey. One of the trips that I went on this journey was to the mountain in Medjugorje in Bosnia, where there was said to have been an apparition of the Virgin Mary. A lot of stuff that I can say about this journey, but as I was going up the mountain, heard a group praying, and they were saying Catholic prayers, and at the end of the prayers, the woman leading the prayers said, "Mary, Queen of Peace, pray for us. Mary, Queen of Peace, pray for us. Mary, Queen of Peace, pray for us." My sense was, why pray for anything else? Like, if we had peace, all these other problems would be solved, right? So back at the beginning of the Ether reading this week, we talked about the importance of the positive vision as opposed to just passively watching all of the catastrophes, the importance of holding that positive harmonic. There's a lot involved in the water readings this week about kind of breaking the cycle of your own inertia, or breaking the cycle of the merry-go-round of the ether, which is today is an extraordinary opportunity to change and not just watch the merry-go-round or, the train go around the tracks. It's an opportunity to change. How can I change? How can I, as a water baby, do everything differently? I can choose to focus my attention on the highest good for the greatest number, as opposed to the greatest good for the smallest number, or the best thing for me, or how to prevent catastrophe, or whatever. I find hope. I work naturally with the clarifying spiritual insight of Mercury retrograde in Sagittarius to revamp and rewire my conception of what is possible in the highest, right? I work with that instead of drilling it, which I may have almost been doing unconsciously or intuitively over the last few weeks. I now shift my sights by choosing to focus my attention on the highest good for the greatest number. Every breath I take is a prayer for peace. You can do this when you're watching CNN or, whatever your IV drip of choice is. You can do this by watching the story,
identifying both sides of the story and then actually focusing on the highest good for all involved. You could be clear about it and say, oh, I wish for clarity and peace and healing and compassion for all parties involved. Or you could just use this prayer. I choose to focus my attention on the highest good for the greatest number in this situation. Every breath I take is a prayer for peace. Peace within, peace without. If you've been following, that was my little blurb during my birthday a couple weeks ago, was a prayer for peace, peace within, peace without. Can't remember if I told you that the idea for that prayer for peace came from Medjugorje and from the Virgin Mother of Medjugorje, Mary Queen of Peace, but there you have it. Now you know. I choose to focus my attention on the highest good for the greatest number. Every breath I take is a prayer for peace. That's your affirmation for the week. If you don't already, please subscribe to the YouTube. Please follow on Facebook, Twitter, Insta. Please, additionally, join the mailing list on ediblespirit.com. I love you. Have a beautiful week, and see you next time.